The following program includes graphic images intended for adult audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
It's everywhere you go, and yet you've probably never noticed it. It's called wired glass, glass with wire mesh in it. It looks strong and has been used for decades in places we consider the safest, including hospitals and schools. But as 16 by 9 discovered, wired glass can be an accident waiting to happen, causing injuries that take people to the brink of death. Risks that have been flagged for years.
I was in Kingston, at a hotel in Kingston. It was second floor, up one flight of stairs, and it was the door in the hallway. There was no push bar on the door, there was no handle, it was just glass window, and it actually had a push sign on the window.
22 years old, and without knowing it, Devin King was standing at the precipice of a life-changing moment.
I pushed it with two hands, and my right hand went all the way through the window.
The wired glass window in the hotel door gave way. The hotel claims that's because Devin punched it.
Yes, I was at a wedding and I was drinking, but I wasn't running. I didn't push the door any different than I did 10 times that day. Since it was wired glass, normally the window would shatter and break away, but the wire held the glass in place. It cut my artery, cut two of my nerves, and cut to the bone through my bicep, cut to the bone through my tricep, cut to the bone through my rear deltoid. It was, flesh hanging off the bone.
With his artery severed, time became critical.
It was just like water coming out of a faucet, the blood pouring out of me. I yelled for my brother because he was in my hotel room, and I passed out from loss of blood and fell down the stairs. The paramedics came and they couldn't get a tourniquet around my arm, so they put me in the ambulance and sat on me the whole way to the hospital because there was no way to stop the bleeding.
Devin says he lost 7 bags worth of blood and was rushed into a 9.5-hour surgery.
My heart stopped 3 times at the table, so it could have easily stayed that way. I could have easily died there.
It would take roughly 250 stitches to patch together his arm. What could not be reassembled was Devin's life as he knew it before. He never regained full use of his hand. His plans of being a pilot in the military were dashed. Those dreams ended in that fateful hotel stairway.
I think it took me a long time to really comprehend how much this was going to affect my life. I was released from the military, had to find a new career, had to find new ways to do everything that I do because I wasn't able to use my arm for a long time, so it changed every facet of my life.
So the act of putting that mesh of glass inside, embedding that...
Engineering professor Doug Perovic says wired glass was designed to protect against fire, and does. But the glass has one serious flaw. It doesn't withstand any significant impact.
How long have we known that wired glass has safety concerns attached to it?
From the very beginning.
And we still installed it in public buildings?
That's correct. When it was first introduced as a commercial product, it was tested for impact, strength, and resistance, and it failed those tests. But because there was no other fire-rated product available, they gave it an exemption.
Hold on, because there was nothing better, they sent it through?
It was supposed to be only for a year or two.
That exemption was made in the U.S. But in Canada, we'd already been using wired glass for years and continued to do so. Today, you'll find it almost everywhere, in hospitals, hockey rinks, and schools.
The point that wire glass is half the strength of the regular glass that you start with. So by putting that in there, even though it looks all strong and great, you're reducing the strength of that original glass by about a factor of 2.
And Doug showed us why, using a high-powered microscope and a sample of wired glass.
So the wire is actually making the glass easier to fracture. And so when you put a bending force, let's say you're pushing on a panel of glass, cracks then start to form around the wire locations that wouldn't if the wires were not there.
Those dark edges you see around the wire are the points of weakness that leave it vulnerable to breaks.
You can visually see the gap that exists between there. It was never bonded fully.
This is a telltale sign.
Of an area of stress concentration, yes.
Ironically, this type of glass is referred to as safety glass. But Greg Abel of Portland, Oregon, begs to differ.
Do you consider wired glass a safety product?
Oh, absolutely not.
For 15 years, he's been pushing for stronger glass standards, ever since his own son was injured by it in a university gym.
The further I got into it, the more I realized that people had been being lied to by the impact qualities, and that all of these people that had been told that it was an isolated incident, that was not the case at all. There were literally thousands of young people being injured annually.
It became Greg's obsession to have the building codes changed. But the wired glass industry, which developed into a profitable business, wasn't about to go down.
So the risk to the industry was in the millions of dollars.
Correct.
This fight became about money.
It was always about money.
So safety was pitted against money?
Of course, without question.
Who was winning?
The wired glass manufacturers. It was our children that were losing.
But in 2006, Greg was triumphant. The U.S. updated its standards. Wired glass now had to meet a new, higher impact test. And traditional wired glass wasn't strong enough.
Wired glass is not allowed in any hazardous location, in any occupancy in the United States.
It was a voluntary standard, but in the years to come, it was adopted across most states. That meant any new construction would be forbidden from using wired glass if it didn't meet the standard. In Canada, nothing changed.
The longer they are able to delay the banning of wired glass, and in Canada, it amounts to millions and millions of dollars.
And so this seemingly innocuous glass continues to be installed and continues to injure and maim.
Today, is there a better alternative?
There are better alternatives, and they've been available for 10, 15 years.
And so why aren't we using those as the standard instead of wired glass?
The main reason is because it's not stipulated, it's not enforced by the building codes.
The Canadian National Building Code is what engineer Doug Perovic is referring to. It uses the Canadian General Standards Board guideline for wired glass, a standard that hasn't been updated since 1990. We wanted to know why and who's responsible for changing it. Next, dangerous wired glass still installed in Canadian schools.
It's shocking that these schools and the school boards know of the danger, they have to know of it, and they're still replacing or putting up wired glass.
The following program includes graphic images intended for adult audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. 1983, and the lead story on Channel 7 Chicago, wired glass.
Our top story on Eyewitness News at 5, an exclusive report by our Target 7 team on a type of glass that is supposed to be safe, but apparently causes injuries and a great deal of money to replace.
And what's the reality?
The reality is it's less strong than ordinary glass and more likely to cause injury than ordinary glass.
Even 30 years ago, experts were aware of the dangers of wired glass.
The experts should get this point across to the people that make the codes and the laws so that this can be corrected.
And yet, it wasn't until the 2000s that wired glass started to be phased out in the US. But in Canada today, the building codes still allow it. People are still being hurt. Even the manufacturers know it doesn't stand up to impact. Right on the box in bold letters, a caution. The wired glass should not be used where human impact is possible. Places like educational facilities. The Canadian Glass Association issued a similar warning and even supports updating the building codes. And yet, this is one of the places you'll find it most often in Canada. And these are the unfortunate stories that can result. Tyler Dickey of Amherst, Nova Scotia.
It was like the last month of school in grade 11.
And Jaden Highland of Toronto.
Monday, December 2nd, 2013. It was lunchtime, so I actually walked through the cafeteria, and there was a long hallway, and at the end of the hallway, there's two sets of doors. Me and my buddy, we were horsing around, and he started running away from me, and I was chasing him. It has no push bar on it. It's just two plain glass, the window at the top, and then the glass at the bottom. It's metal, and then the windows on the door are the wired glass windows. Put both hands, palms up, on the glass part of the door. I pushed the window, and there's just no resistance, just right through, like Superman through it. I got cuts all up both arms. I looked down and seen the blood, and like it was like a flap of skin. The glass just completely just sliced up my face and my arms. I touched my face, and my hand, like my finger completely went into my cheek. I had a friend who actually said it looked like I had a 2-liter bottle of juice and just dumped it. I was walking down the hall dumping juice, so that's what he thought it was actually happening. Like it was a flap, like I could lift it up and you could see my skull. My shirt, my clothes, everything was just bloody. Felt like I was in a horror movie. Like, yeah, it doesn't look good. Like there's, yeah, a very good chance he's not gonna make it for sure.
You've referred to wired glass as a ticking time bomb.
That's right.
Michael Smitchuk is an injury lawyer representing Tyler and Jaden.
It's just a matter of time before children being children will impact the glass and be severely injured like they have already been.
Both Tyler and Jaden are now suing their school boards for the injuries they suffered because of wired glass. But in court documents, their school boards have blamed them for their injuries, saying they were acting recklessly.
What are schools and school boards saying to your clients when they're injured?
Usually they'll say, you had something to do with it. So it's quite alarming that the school boards almost suggest that the student is to blame when they know full well how dangerous this is.
Most school boards in Ontario have been warned by their insurer since 2001 that wired glass can cause horrible injuries. That Ontario insurer has dealt with 114 injury claims related to wired glass in the past 14 years alone, costing nearly $6 million.
How is it that that warning can fall on deaf ears?
It's shocking. It's shocking that the schools and the school boards know of the danger, they have to know of it, and they're still replacing or putting up wired glass.
But Jaden's school board has signaled a change. The largest in Canada, the Toronto District School Board. Its spokesperson, Ryan Bird.
Our new builds will be using some sort of alternate safety glass that are now on the market.
The move will only apply to new construction. Wired glass already installed won't be replaced.
If wired glass is deemed dangerous, isn't it unsafe to keep it in your current schools?
It's just not possible financially to replace every single wired glass window in the Toronto District School Board, given the countless millions of dollars that it would cost.
But a student would say to you, how can you put a price on my safety?
Obviously, my heart goes out to them, and I hope that they're okay, but we're having to try to look after as many students as possible.
The Toronto School Board points out it has always been in compliance with the building and fire codes, even while using wired glass. It's just the wired glass standard hasn't been updated in 25 years. So why has it taken so long to update a glass standard while people are being injured? We wanted to ask the Canadian General Standards Board that very question. It sets the guidelines for wired glass use in Canada, guidelines that the provinces then adopt and make mandatory. But after 2 months of correspondence and asking for an interview, they declined, stating in an email that a committee is reviewing the standards for wired glass, expected to be complete in mid to late 2016. It's a significant move, but it won't do anything to change all of the wired glass that's already installed. Eight years after Tyler Dickey's accident, he still has panic attacks.
Just automatically think, yeah, I'm dying, like my heart's gonna explode.
While Jaden Hyland says he's accepted what's happened to him, just not why.
Having to look in the mirror every day and just seeing some huge scars on your face doesn't bother anybody.
A reminder of that terrible day.
Yeah.
And so while glass standards in Canada are being reviewed, they have a message.
Glass is not something to play around with, so they're just, playing with people's lives.
What do you think the standards should say?
It just should be changed. Shouldn't be anywhere with a whole bunch of kids. I would leave them with something to think about. Does it take for someone to die before you change it?
And that is our broadcast for tonight. A reminder, you can always connect with us on Facebook and Twitter or at globalnews.ca/16by9. I'm Carolyn Jarvis. From all of us here at 16 by 9, thanks for watching.